Well, good afternoon or morning, everyone, depending on where you're located. This is Curtis Hawks, Chief Marketing Officer over here at Insurance Agency Marketing Services. And we've got a great topic, a great presentation for today. We've seen over the last couple of years the interest in virtual preset appointments grow dramatically. And even as we continue to plod our way forward to incorporating marketing strategies that advisors utilize very heavily pre-COVID, when you think about workshops, direct mail, those types of things. One thing that we have certainly noticed is that advisors like virtual appointments, they like preset appointments. It takes a lot of that marketing challenge out of the equation, allows you to focus on what you do best, which is meeting with people. And so the topic for today is going to be taking a deep dive into best practices for that first appointment when you're working a virtual preset appointment in the 403B state municipality, federal space. And so before we get into that, I did want to take a couple of minutes to chat a little bit about some of the additional ways on top of training like this, but some of the additional ways that IAMS can add value to your practice. So first up is our new producer builders. If you are a new agent to IAMS, as you can see up here, there's a variety of different ways that we can partner with you as you get going with us. You can see the different point levels up there, but there's a variety of things from marketing solutions to our custom creative design services, even to cash, iPads, trips, etc. And so I would encourage you, if you've got questions about that or you haven't seen that, we do have it on the site. I would also encourage you to reach out, talk to a sales director over here. They can chat with you a little bit further about how that works. And also I would mention, one of the cornerstones of IAMS is customization. And so if you're a new producer with us and you've got some marketing things that you're doing that you like that are working for you, certainly feel free to reach out to a sales director and they can chat with you about how we could incorporate that into this as well. And the number for us, by the way, as well is 800-255-5055. In addition to that, we've got our referred producer program. If you currently work with us and you know of an advisor who maybe isn't quite happy with their current relationship or is looking to make a change, send them our way. Not only will you get a $50 bonus when that agent gets contracted, but you'll get additional bonuses as they're producing business with us on an ongoing basis. You don't have to do anything. We'll take care of all the service, and you've got checks coming to you on a quarterly basis. In addition to that, we've got our marketing reimbursement program. That's $100 for every 100,000 of qualifying index annuity premium. And as you can see there on the life insurance section, $200 for every 100,000 of single premium life business and $200 for every 10,000 of flow premium. And if you've got questions on that, certainly feel free to reach out and talk to one of the sales directors over here as well. In addition to this, wanted to make a point about back office support. I mean, everybody says they've got good service, but I do feel like, over the last couple of years, there's been a spotlight on service as carriers have slowed down or have staff working remote, et cetera. And so I would tell you that I think we do it better than most. And so if you haven't had a chance to experience that, whether it's on the front end with the case design to the new business, commissions tracking, you definitely need to. We also, technology is a big theme with IAMS. And in fact, the preset appointment program that we're going to be talking about today is very tech-based. But we do make it simple and easy for you to do e-applications with us. We do integrate with Firelight. We also integrate with iPipeline as well. You can see up here the participating carriers that we have, and then the bulk of our life insurance volume integrates with iPipeline, both of which are on our website. You just need to be licensed with us to be able to log in there. And so if you've got questions on that or would like to get access to the site, feel free to reach out and talk to us. And if you are currently contracted and aren't doing the applications, they're a great way to reduce applications that are not in good order and to really expedite the new business process. Our creative marketing solutions, I really feel creative is the key word there. We've seen, and this is part of the reason why we've expanded our preset appointment options is that you have to be creative in today's marketplace. You've got to be nimble with what's going on out there. And so our team does an amazing job supporting our advisors and can really create and do anything that you want. The other thing that I would mention to you as well is I know we're at the beginning of the year right now, and so a lot of advisors as they're going into the year are still thinking through what do they want the year to look like and what type of marketing uh, programs they should be taking a look at. One thing IAMS offers is a custom marketing analysis, and so with that, what you'll get is we'll go through kind of essentially doing a fact finder or needs analysis with the advisor, identifying what their goals are, what their target market is, how are they currently marketing, what type of marketing assets you have, and then we'll put together a customized marketing plan for you of what we think would help you accomplish your objectives. And if you're interested in taking advantage of that completely complimentary service, reach out, talk to one of your sales directors, and they can get it scheduled for you. As I'd mentioned, technology is a big theme with us on the IAMS website. Everything that you're going to need to be able to transact business is on there, from e-applications to annuity quotes to life insurance quotes. We've got our entire sales resource library on there that literally has hundreds of consumer-facing pieces that cover everything from IRAs, annuity basics, life basics, to even specimen documents for trusts, split dollar arrangements, and everything in between. And so I would encourage you, if you haven't spent some time going through the IAMS site, you certainly should. There's a variety of resources on there, and you just have to be licensed to get a login to the site. In addition to that, we offer a number of additional software platforms, including Retirement Analyzer, Stonewood, Insmark, and all of these are designed to accomplish different objectives, but at their core is to take the planning concepts that you're talking about and break those down into a simple and straightforward way to explain them. And so you can get access to any of the software platforms that we offer free through IAMS. You just need to reach out, speak with the sales director, and they can chat with you about that. In addition to that, we set up an RIA platform a few years ago. We've seen significant growth on it. And one thing that we certainly have seen in the marketplace is heightened interest and more of a shift in the agent space to incorporating AUM into their business. It can be a great opportunity to grow your business, to retain clients, and for prospecting and marketing. And so what I would tell you is if you've been thinking about this, or maybe you are an existing IAR, maybe you aren't quite happy with where you're at, reach out and talk to Duncan and Charles and their team. They do a great job. They've got some of the best service that you'll find out there, and they can answer any of the questions that you have as well on that. Next up, and I always get excited about this slide because it wasn't so easy to travel a couple of years ago, and so we're very excited about our Top Producer Summit. As you can see there, it's going to be a little bit later this year. Now the good news is you've still got through June 30th to qualify, but it's going to be a Mediterranean cruise going around the boot of Italy, all top end, all concierge level. And as you can see there, it's 4.5 million points to qualify for that. If you've got questions on that, if you're interested, or even if you're currently producing with us and want to see where you're at, reach out, talk to a sales director. They can get you additional information on that. Next up are life and annuity academies. And so we're very excited about these. We've got a full slate this year. We were only able to do one last year with COVID. And so our first event is coming up here at the beginning of April, actually April 6th through the 8th. And it's just it's a great opportunity to get a lot of great information that can make a positive impact on your practice, from hearing from top producers to learning about new marketing programs to learning about new sales strategies and concepts. It's just an absolutely great opportunity. And it's also a great opportunity to network and talk with other advisors. And as I mentioned, our first event of the year is April 6th through the 8th. We're currently have it available on the site if you want to inquire about attending. So you can either go to the IAMS website, which is iamsinc.com, or reach out, talk to a sales director about trying to get registered on that. Lastly, wanted to mention we are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter as well. But we're always posting content each and every day on a variety of topics. And so if you haven't had an opportunity yet to like us on Facebook or LinkedIn, definitely you want to. There's a lot of good information that we put out on the industry, marketing and prospecting, as well as different offers, promotions, et cetera, that we have through IAMS. So with that, we'll get to the main event. So running successful appointments with the Sterling Appointment Program. So we launched this program formally at the beginning of the year, and we've been running it for a while now, and we're very excited about it. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we've certainly noticed there's a significant appetite in the marketplace for preset appointments, and especially virtual preset appointments. And so we felt it was very important to put together a program that we felt could generate consistent success with advisors. And so the purpose of today's call is to talk about best practices, and not just within this Sterling Appointment Program, but just in general when you're working virtual appointments. And as well, this program targets a few different markets. It targets K through 12, state municipal employees, as well as federal employees as well. And so with me today, I've got Scott Bell. He's the president of Sterling National Financial Group. For over 25 years, he's worked in these spaces. He's coached hundreds of advisors. He's overseen tens of thousands of appointments in that time frame. And so he's one of the best people out there in the marketplace that you can have to talk through best practices. And so, Scott, I appreciate you taking some time with us today so we can pick your brain and all learn a little bit more about how to close more business.
Well, thank you, Curtis. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So with that, well, let's dive right into it. So as I mentioned, you know, in the Sterling Appointment Program, you're gonna get appointments with a few different markets. So that's going to be K through 12 educators. That's going to be state municipal employees, and then there's some availability for federal appointments as well. So first question up is, and maybe before we even get into, are you calling from the correct phone number? Because you're scheduling these appointments. But maybe just, Scott, if you could take a moment and just walk through how that person even arrives at setting an appointment with the advertising that you guys do.
Sure. So in our system, what happens is all of the employees, no matter who they work for, they're going to be, hit with some kind of marking that applies to them. Some of the big topics right now are taxes and retirement. Are you sure you're not going to outlive your money? Are you concerned about, how much you're going to get in retirement? They're all related around questions like that. And so that's mainly what the advertisement is that the employees of the different types are responding to.
Okay. And so the phone number that you're calling for is important because you guys do a follow-up process. Yeah.
Right. So what happens is that once we schedule an appointment with an employee, then what we do is we assign that appointment to one of the advisors that works with us. And what we do is we send out an email prior to the appointment to remind the employee the lead that they have an appointment coming up. We also send them a text message. And the text message feature has become very popular and actually has really helped reduce the amount of no-shows that we have with our appointments. So basically what the text message says is that you have an upcoming appointment with Scott Bell, and the appointment's at 2 o'clock. They will call you from, and it actually gives a phone number that I'm going to call that lead from. So that way, if someone receives a phone call from a number they don't recognize, hopefully they will recognize that they saw it in the text message earlier, and they will go ahead and answer it. So we want to make sure that you're calling from the same phone number that we're telling them you're going to call from in the text message that we send them as a reminder.
Well, and that's a good point, because I know a lot of advisors, they've got their cell phone obviously, but they maybe have a business line. And so I think that's an important point to be cognizant of when you're running these appointments, is making sure that whatever number that you've got set up with Sterling to be used, that's what you're calling from if you're going to do it. Otherwise, it's a number that that person doesn't recognize. So then they might not pick up the phone when you call.
Exactly.
So following with the phone trend, so I know this has been a thing that you, well, one, I think just in general, people have noticed that they'll get a call on their cell phone and it's flagged as a spam number. And it may be a spam number, or it may be somebody that they actually want to talk to, but was flagged. That same thing can happen with advisors. And that's really been going on for, you're really going back. I think I started to notice it into second quarter, beginning of third quarter last year. And so obviously this can be an impediment for when an appointment's set. So what are some things that you're seeing, Scott, that they can do to try and address that?
Yeah, so this has been an interesting twist, something we haven't dealt with in the past, but we're finding that it's happening a lot, that the advisors that are making outbound phone calls for whatever, maybe you're working radio ads or something in addition to the Sterling ads, Sterling appointments, is that your phone number is showing up as possible spam through whether it's iPhone or Android. And so we've actually had, just within the last month, we've had 2 people that work with us that have had this happen. Now, how you get that rectified is you're gonna have to call your phone provider and let them know that you're not a spam company, and go through their process to get your phone number removed as a possible spam number. So it takes a little time, but it's definitely something you have to do, because the likelihood that someone's gonna answer your phone call if it shows up on their phone as possible spam is 0.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, to the extent they're going to do anything, it's if you leave a voicemail, they might check the voicemail and then, oh, okay, that's this person calling. And both iPhone and Android did some updates last year, and I feel like they kind of went a little bit too extreme on it. But to your point, Scott, yeah, I mean, if you've noticed this at all, just with calling out to prospects, existing clients, et cetera, the simple fix is you call your phone provider, and then they've got a process to rectify that. Next up, so why shouldn't somebody call an appointment in advance? Most advisors are used to, when they set an appointment, they're doing a follow-up in advance of that meeting to make sure the person's there.
Yes, that's a great question. So in our system, we've designed it to where we do the reminders on behalf of the advisor. So as I said earlier, the advisor is going to get an email from us reminding of them, and then plus they get a text message from us as a reminder to the appointment that they have. If you call them before the preset time, one, it confuses them. And so we have had people do this, and we've gone through this obviously a lot. And the likelihood of the appointment making and it being successful goes way down if you contact them before the appointment. So like, for example, they've scheduled the appointment with one of our appointment setters. And even though that we tell them that, someone from IAMS is going to be contacting them, still that they don't really have a relationship with you, the advisor, yet. So if you contact them in advance, it becomes confusing. Also, the time that we set is the most convenient for them, so that if you're contacting them in advance of that time, then most likely it's not a convenient time, and they get flustered, and they end up just saying, well, just cancel. And so really, it's best to just follow the process, let us do all the reminding, and just trust that at that appointment time that we've done everything we can to make sure that appointment is going to be there and show up.
All good points. And for those of you that haven't worked within the platform, I mean, they've got a very robust follow-up process, which is not the norm, but it's shown to be very, very effective. Also, as we're segueing over the next question, I did see a question pop up. We are going to have, if you've got questions as we're going through this along the way, go ahead and type them in, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll go ahead and go through those and answer all those with the time that we have left over as well. So in our first appointment, so they're getting this appointment scheduled, and I know I'm going to be asking you what questions they should ask here in a couple of slides, but as far as key points, I mean, what are some of the key things that somebody should be trying to cover in the first appointment?
Well, that's good, and I get asked this question a lot, and I can tell you the thing that you should not ask is how much money do you have? And so we do have a lot of advisors that will start off that way, and it's not really one, an appropriate question to ask. It's kind of like asking someone how much money they make when you first meet them, but it's just not, you got to warm them up a little bit. So the best thing to get to cover in the first appointment is just find out information about them. Ask questions and do a lot of listening, and make sure that they know that you're listening to what they say. And so from that, find out if they're married or single, find out if they have children, find out what their work situation is, find out how long they've been there, find out what their previous jobs were and what their future might hold. I mean, there's a lot of questions that you need to ask that are totally non-financial related, that are questions that are very important for you to design a plan for someone, and to make sure really that you can hit on the right hot buttons to make sure that you can have a successful appointment, which means writing an application.
Well, and I think doing that and asking questions about them, I think that certainly goes a long ways toward building some rapport with them as well. I mean, I think we all know that while you can establish trust, build a relationship, establish rapport, all those types of things virtually, certainly that time frame to do it is quicker when you're doing a live face-to-face sit down. So incorporating what you're talking about certainly helps move the needle on that when you're dealing with somebody virtually.
That's right. Yeah, as we all move to the more virtual world, it's important to adapt and understand that face-to-face is different than virtual, and so you have to ask different questions. And so a lot of advisors that were very good face-to-face, or what we call kitchen table type sales, they had difficulties transitioning to the virtual because they're trying to ask the same questions. You need to really to adjust and make sure that you're asking the same things without the physical cues that you would normally get in a face-to-face appointment.
Very, very good points. So let's talk about questions for a little bit. I mean, what's the most important question, or what types of questions? Can you talk a little bit about that in regard to a first appointment?
You bet. So, the biggest part of any kind of sales is to have a sales process, honestly. And so let me make sure and make it clear that no matter what the clients say, you shouldn't change your presentation. Your presentation should be the same no matter what. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to alter it a little bit based on the questions they ask. But I've heard great salespeople tell me all the time, if you're bored with your presentation, that means that you're doing it right. Because once you get a presentation and a sales process down, you should follow it as they go. So where that ties into this question, what you asked me, Curtis, is the most important questions to ask them is basically, why did you schedule this? What piqued your interest to respond to, to ask me to call you? So find out what it is that they are interested in finding out. Maybe it's that they want to pay off their home, or that they're worried about their kid going to college. I mean, there could be anything. And no matter what they say, you're still going to handle it the same way you would anyway. So like, for example, if someone says, well, I'm interested in pulling out my retirement so I can pay off my home. Well, that's great, and that's a valid point. Let me show you exactly first how your retirement works, and then you roll right into your presentation. So what you've done is you validated that they've asked you a question, you validated that you're going to get to it, but first you need to kind of give them a little background information rather than just going to, well, you can't pull out your retirement to pay off your house. It just doesn't work that way. You should never just go to that point. You should give them a lot of prep work so that way they can understand. You take them down the path that you need to lead them down to make them understand that they shouldn't be thinking about paying off their house. They should be thinking about making sure they have enough money to make their house payment, honestly.
Well, very good point. And so can you talk a little bit about, you can use open-ended questions, you can use closed-ended questions. In your experience with this, I mean, should an agent that's running these types of appointments or running virtual appointments just in general, should they focus more on open-ended at the beginning of the presentation, and then as they kind of are establishing anything? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So, the open-ended questions are the best to ask in the beginning. Curtis always says, he who asks the most effective questions always wins. And so it's very true when you're talking about this. You have to make sure that you're getting the correct information out of them and not leading them too much, but at the same time, once you start to form what their problem is, then you need to start asking more specific questions about, okay, how much longer do you feel like you're going to work until you retire? And, or, how much money do you feel you need at retirement? And you notice that every time I said that, I have used the word feel. I didn't say how much you think, because what we're trying to do is access the part of their brain that's emotional. We want them to really think about, less of, more strategically, but less of what do you want? What is it that you really need? That really helps in your sales process a lot.
Very, very good points. So no-shows. I mean, no-shows are always an element of marketing, right? We not everybody shows up for an appointment, but what are some things that Sterling does to try and reduce down the number of no-shows? And then also, is there anything the advisor can do to help
Sure.
reduce those as well?
So as we mentioned before, we make sure and send them a reminder email, and we also send them a reminder text message before the first appointment. And that's very important. The thing that the advisor can do is to make sure to be on time. Something that's interesting about our program is because we send them a text message before the appointment, if you're the advisor, don't call them on time, a lot of times we'll get a text message back from them and say, hey, Scott Bell was supposed to call me and he didn't call. So we know if you're late calling someone or you don't call someone. And so, being on time for these appointments is very, very important. And then also being prepared, make sure that you're not in your car driving somewhere, that you're in a place that's, conducive to work, that you have things available to you that is, to make sure and handle the appointment in a professional manner. So, all those things are very important. And, just being prepared. As far as the second appointment, I think we're going to cover that here in a second. But the second, how to get the second appointment and keep that from a no-show is an art too that we'll cover.
Yep. And then if, let's say that we have a scenario where agent has called and the person doesn't answer, what should that agent do? Should they just leave a voicemail and see if they get a call back? Should they leave a voicemail and then do a text message? Or can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, that's a great one. So we used to tell people just to call and just wait. But what we've seen is that a lot of people who aren't answering their phones because they don't recognize the phone number, they're waiting for someone to leave them a voicemail message. So what we ask that you do is if you call and they don't answer the phone immediately, we ask for you on the first call to go ahead and leave them a voicemail message. And the reason why, especially like on iPhones now, it does the transcription of your voicemail. And so they can just pop over to the voicemail screen and read that it's from you. A lot of times you'll get a phone call back. So that's the first thing I would suggest is to go ahead and call, leave a voicemail message. And then if they still don't call you back, then I would send them a text message and you would send them something like this. This is Scott. We had an appointment scheduled at 12 o'clock today. I only have about 20 minutes available time, so if you could please call me back. And what you're doing there is you're setting it up to where a little bit of sense of urgency and the fact that you don't have much time, they need to call you back. Plus you're setting yourself up to, hey, I'm a busy person. You need to make sure and get back in touch with me. So it's all about kind of the attitude that you put out to them to make sure that they do call you back. So I would recommend sending out the text message. If you are calling from an office line, it is very simple now to get text messaging features on office lines even, so you might want to look into that for your personal practice.
Very good. So next question up, and I know this comes up a lot, but and maybe you, so question is, how should you address the question of whether you work with the HR department or the district and the state? So but before even answering that, maybe talk about why there's that common misconception for those types of employees.
Yes, so, even though we tell them that we're not with their employer, we tell them we're not with their state retirement system, they still think that we are. And it's a lot of times because of the marketing. We're saying, are you concerned about, or do you have questions about how your state retirement system works? And so they just get that idea that it is, that the two are together. And how you should really handle that is just plainly say, gosh, you're lucky I'm not. And you don't want to say it too aloof, but you want to be firm in how you present that. And the reason is because they truly are. If any of you on this call have ever spoken to the state retirement system, or a lot of times the HR department at an employer, some of the misinformation that's shared is quite frightening. For example, in the state of Texas, if someone calls in and says, I'm interested in finding out how much money I'm going to get at retirement time, what the state retirement system tells them is, as long as you meet the rule of 80, you're entitled to full benefit at retirement time. Now, if you really think about what that sounds like, it sounds like if your age and your years of service add up to 80, you're going to receive 100% of your retirement. And that's a lot of times what people think. And they hear that and they stop listening. Now, hopefully everyone on this call knows that that's not really true. Once you meet the rule of 80 or 85, then you're just entitled to your full formula, which the formula is way reduced from 100% of their salary. So because the state retirement systems work off scripts, and these scripts are written by attorneys to make sure no one gets in trouble, a lot of times it's difficult for employees that aren't financially literate people to understand or understand. And really, that's what our job is. Our job is to act as the buffer in between the state department, the state retirement systems, in between the HR departments, to make sure they understand truly what they're going to get at retirement time. Because HR departments are not equipped, nor are they trained to explain to them how taxes are going to work in retirement. Neither is the state retirement system. Plus, they're not equipped or trained enough to explain to them how joint survivor benefit options work. And so that really is your job as the advisor, is to act as that in between. And you need to truly believe that in your heart of hearts, that you're there to help them understand this more clearly than they're going to understand if they call the state retirement system or if they call their HR department or employer. So again, back to what Curtis said, is if someone says, gosh, I thought you were the district, you should say, well, you're really lucky I'm not, and that's because I have the training and the licensing to be able to show you how truly your retirement's going to work. And you just need to flow right into your presentation from there. Just don't even hesitate, just keep going. Now, does it always work? No, of course not. At that point, there's times when they're going to think you're someone outside, and it just, oh my goodness. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to save that, and you just need to do it with confidence, and you need to be quick. And the art of your sales technique should come in at that point, where you just got to be quick on your feet and make them understand that you can help them out more than if they talk to those people.
Well, and I think that's a good point too, when you're talking about being confident in your answer and going through into the next thing that you want to ask, because it is a common misconception. And I've talked to advisors over the years where they'll use that response, or they'll use, well, you know what, that's actually a common misconception. A lot of people think that there's a dedicated person that works for the district or the state or what have you, that's there to help you on this stuff. And the reality is that actually doesn't exist. And so I'm an agent advisor, and I work with individuals that work in this market to help, and you just kind of keep going through it. And that's another thing too that I would tell everybody, if you've got additional questions on how to handle it, I mean, again, the sales directors over here at IAMS, we can help work with you. Scott and his team can as well. So one of the big things that comes up, obviously, is what's my income calculation? And you kind of alluded to it a little bit in the last question, Scott, that it can be complicated for them to figure out, or they can't get the right answer from the state. And I know we're going to be doing a deeper dive into this question on exactly how you go through things, but can you speak to this a little bit to give some guidance for everybody on the call today?
Sure, you bet. So, when this question comes up, obviously you want to be able to answer it. The whole point of the first appointment is for A, for you to gain credibility, but B, is for you to get the second appointment. I mean, that's what we're here for. And so you're not going to be able to do that unless you can illustrate that you have knowledge in the system that they're in. And so first thing I would suggest is you become an expert in their state retirement system. And I know a lot of y'all work in a lot of different states, and that can be challenging, but just create some cheat sheets to work off of. But knowing the state retirement system forwards and backwards is extremely important. A lot of times they're going to say, well, I want to know how much I'm going to get at retirement time. And, for you to be able to answer that question very literally, you have to have some pretty hard numbers from them. The worst thing that you can do at that point is get into exacts, because at that point, you ask them, well, how much money do you make a year? Well, I have no idea. And that's, believe me, it's a very common answer that we get. And, a lot of times they don't know where to go get that information. And so the best thing that you can do is either reassure them that we can do it just based off of estimations, or, you can ask them simple questions like, well, do you know how much your monthly take home is? And then you can calculate backwards from that and try to, come pretty close to what their annual salary is. But again, the worst thing that you can do is just start to get into, absolutes where you're trying to get down to the penny, because what you'll end up doing is they'll lose interest in finding the information, and then you'll end up not being able to help them. And then it'll be 5 years down the road before they start looking at the retirement program again, and they're 5 years closer to retirement. And, to be quite frank, it's your fault. And so, our job again, as the ambassadors here, is to help them get through this and not get, bogged down in the details until it becomes really necessary. I mean, there's a point where, someone's getting ready to retire, you need to get the exact numbers. But in the beginning here, you can work off of estimates for sure.
So Scott, as a follow-up to this, do you feel like you should try and extrapolate all this out on the first appointment, or do you feel like if because obviously a lot of these people are going to want to get some semblance of an idea. Should you not even try and give that in the first appointment and save that for the second appointment?
I would try my best to get as much information from them to do the income calculation on the first appointment as you can. If there's some things that you need to follow up with, then you can. But for the most part, you can get it really close. We're actually having a training section next Monday to talk about the TRAK software, TRAK. And TRAK software is a great way to do retirement analysis. And also IAMS has retirement analysis, what's it called? The
Retirement Analyzer.
Retirement Analyzer, right?
Yep.
So those are excellent tools to be able to use to do this. And so if you come very proficient with those, you can come really close just based on, the information you have in the first appointment. And if you have to get other details from them in the second appointment, you can, and you can change it right there on the fly and show them.
Okay. So then let's talk about that for a moment. What is the reason for the second appointment, or how do you get that when you're in the first appointment?
The whole goal of the first appointment is to get information and get the second appointment. And so getting the second appointment is important and is an art. You should try your best to set them up with value added for the second appointment. So what I mean by that is that you never leave an appointment letting them know that you could probably do the second appointment right then and there, okay? You always have to come back and say, well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put together a plan, and on the next appointment, I'll have that available for you. And so what you're doing there is you're letting them know that you're going to do work in between the first and second appointment. So therefore, they feel value to come to the second appointment. And that's very important. So, a lot of times, like, think of car sales or anything else. Well, I'm going to give you your card, I'm going to come back. Usually that's the kiss of death. You don't want that. So getting the second appointment with some kind of a goal in mind is what's super important. And if you give them all the information in the first appointment, there's no reason to schedule the second. So you have to be careful with that information you give them in the first appointment, so that you can make sure and leave enough on the table so they have to come back for the second appointment.
Very good point. I mean, there's got to be a reason for them to want to meet with you another time. So initially, these appointments are set for a phone call. So then I guess the question is, should they do a phone call for the second appointment, or should they transition to Zoom? What are your thoughts on that?
So I will say this, that the odds of closing on second or third appointments go way up if it's virtual. However, if you're dealing with someone who you can tell in the first appointment is not technologically savvy, or if they have resistance to doing a Zoom in the second appointment, then for sure go back to the phone appointment. But no matter what I would do is when I'm scheduling the second appointment, during the first appointment, I would say for our second appointment, I'm going to be able to show you a lot of information that we talked about today. And so to do that, we need to do that in Zoom. And if that's okay, I'm going to go ahead and schedule that Zoom appointment right now. So what you'll find out right then and there is if they have adversity to getting on Zoom. Some people do. If that's the case, then say, okay, well, we can do it another way. You just need to do it through a phone. But also what this does to help out is if you do schedule a Zoom meeting, when you update Sterling that you scheduled a second meeting and you put on there that you're doing Zoom, then what you can do is you can actually put the link for the Zoom inside of our update sheet. And when the lead gets the reminder text message for the second appointment, that Zoom link is going to automatically be in there. So it's very readily available for them. So it makes it really nice.
Very, very good point. So what are some things that you can do to ensure attendance at the second appointment? And you kind of touched on it a little bit already, but if you could expand on that a little bit more.
Sure, very, very important. Never email them what you're going to show them in the second appointment. Never do it, because the prize for them coming to the second appointment should be that they get the information that you created from the first appointment. So we get this a lot where advisors, they meet with them in the first appointment and they send them an email with their income projections or retirement and income projections. And then the person will email back and they'll cancel the second appointment because they've already got what they needed from you. They might not understand it, but they feel like emotionally that they've got it. And so it's very important for you to play a little coy with them, keep them involved, but don't give them everything that they need to make sure that you get the second appointment. So again, you can take them through your sales process. Sales process is very, very important. So, the best way to get the second appointment is to make sure and dangle the carrot that they're going to come to the second appointment and they're going to get great information from you. And talk yourself up. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a fine line. Don't be arrogant about it, but you should be real excited for them about what you're going to provide to them.
Well, and that's especially on that emailing. I've noticed that in the past as well. And sometimes these prospects, they maybe have an agent or an advisor already, right? And so when you send that to them, they might take that back to that person, and then now that know that you're in the mix, all of a sudden it's, well, no, I can actually help you with that. And so them having to be at that appointment to see it significantly increases the attendance rate.
That's right.
As far as framing what's covered in the second appointment, you talked a little bit about this, but I guess part of what I was getting from that is you kind of talking about the process, what as far as what you covered in the first appointment, then here's what to look forward to, right?
That's right. So a lot of you probably already do this. You don't realize you are, though. But at the end of every meeting, you should recap what you covered in the first meeting. And again, like I said earlier, if you get tired of your presentation, that means you're doing it right, because you should do it the same way every single time. So at the end of the meeting, you should say, okay, so you told me that you're interested in paying off your home. And then what I did is I explained to you kind of how your retirement system works. I got the information from you to be able to do retirement income analysis for you. And so what I'm going to do for the next appointment that we have scheduled on the 18th at 1 o'clock is we're going to set up for a Zoom, and I'm going to have that retirement income analysis prepared for you. So that way on Zoom, I can show it all to you. And what you've done there is you reminded them it's going to be on Zoom. You reminded them of the date. You've just reiterated and reassured them of all the information you've already gave them, plus you've dangled the carrot of what they're going to get for the next appointment. If you can deliver that very smoothly, your no-show rate or your show rate for your second appointments is going to be very, very high.
Very, very good. And it's all those little things that can end up making a big impact with this whole process. So last question that I had for you, and most companies that are in the lead gen business, appointment business, et cetera, the way that normally works is you go buy an appointment, you buy a lead, and then that's it. Everything's on you, the advisor, from that point forward. Sterling takes a more active role. If you happen to have somebody that maybe no shows an appointment, they'll remarket to them. Scott had mentioned in between that first and second appointment, if you schedule that Zoom call and you load that into the Sterling reporting, they'll send that link out to the client as well. So knowing that there's some interaction between the agent and Sterling, so that way you guys can properly follow up and make sure people are showing for appointments. Can you talk a little bit about how agents report back?
Yes, sir. So what happens is Sterling sends whenever we invite you to an appointment, we send you an email with an invitation link. And in there is a unique link for that specific appointment. And what that link does is that's it's a web form that lets us know the result of that appointment. And so what we need to know is if the person no-showed you, for example. So if they no-showed you, let us know that. Tell us what you did. So I left a voice message, I sent them a text message, no response back, great. So because we've had a relationship with that lead up to that point, we've been emailing them back and forth or what have you. We know that there are kids in softball right now or something like that. And so because we've had that relationship, it's a lot easier, honestly, for us to get them back on their calendar than it is for you because you haven't even spoken to them yet. So we handle that. So that's why reporting things back to us and within 24 hours of the appointment is very, very important. So if it's a no-show, let us know. If it's you schedule a second appointment, let us know what the date and the time is. Let us know if it's Zoom, in person, or over the phone. Send us that Zoom link. So that way our system will automatically send them that reminder email, send them that reminder text message for the second appointment. So it will greatly decrease your no-show rate. Let's say that the person you talk to, they get on the phone and they just won't talk to you at all, whatever. So it's a loss. So, at that point, let us know what they said. And what that helps us do is helps us tweak our marketing a little bit. Maybe a piece of marketing material we're using isn't working and we need to know that. And the only way we're going to know that is from feedback from you guys. And we take that feedback. And then best is if you make a sale. Let us know when you close a deal and let us know the amounts. And then most importantly, let us know if you've asked for referrals. Referrals in our business is something that I think that even though you are getting into a lead program, referrals are still really important. So whether you can help someone out by writing an application on them or not, it's still important to ask for referrals. So even if you're not going to get a case and you've still been able to help answer their questions, and we get this a lot, people are like, oh, they just had questions. Well, great. So at the end of your presentation, it's super simple. Say, Ms. Jones, as you can see, I'm very knowledgeable about the state retirement system and was able to help you answer your questions. If there's anyone that that I can help out as much as I was able to help you out, please let me know. And then all you have to do is kind of throw some suggestions out there, maybe a relative or maybe someone that you work with now, someone that just hired on to your employer. If you throw out suggestions, you'd be shocked at how often someone will give you a referral just kind of off the top like that. So it's very important to ask for those referrals. But also, like I said, back to your question, it's very important to report back to Sterling exactly what you're doing on the appointments and not let them get backed up. So that way we can stay up to date. And just to be transparent with you guys, if you don't do the reporting back to Sterling on the appointments, then we shut off your appointments. Because as far as we know, you're not running them. We don't have any way of knowing. And so it's very important that you report back to us what's going on.
And that's a good point, because you guys are going to keep clipping out appointments to an advisor. And so if there's not an in status of what happened with it, then, can't keep that going forever.
That's right.
So as I mentioned, this is going to be a multi-part series of best practices on this. One of the things I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation is if anybody has any questions, go ahead and type them in, and then we'll get to them and go through them here. And so we've got a little bit of time to go through this. I don't know if we'll have enough time to get through all of them, but let me go ahead and start working through these. So let's see here. So do you have a sense, Scott, on the appointments that you guys are setting, what percentage of these people have 25,000 or more in their retirement accounts?
Well, that's a good question. So retirement accounts being their non-state sponsored retirement accounts, we really don't. I mean, you know, whether someone has money in them or not, depending on what state you are, you can still set them up on flexible premium 403b, or for sure universal life policies. So, you know, really, it is important, obviously, if they have funds to be able to transfer them, but it's not always in their best interest. So you got to make sure and have a lot of arrows in your quiver and be able to offer other things, being it life insurance or 403b flow.
Yeah. Is there a benchmark, like if you're talking to somebody and they say they've been working for a school district for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years? I mean, is there a time frame where if they've been saving over that time frame, there's probably a good semblance of an idea that it would be at that amount or more?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you know, gosh, I shouldn't say that. You know, we have people all the time, or, you know, I'm getting ready to retire this year. I've never saved a dime in my life. You know, that of course happens all the time. You know, and in that situation, you can still help them out, ask for referrals. But you know, if they're, you know, 25 years old, just fresh out of college and starting out a new career, then obviously they're a great candidate for life insurance. They're a great candidate to start saving. If they're, you know, in their middle 40s or whatever, and they've been saving, obviously there's a great opportunity for rollovers, or if they've had previous jobs to capture dormant 401ks. You know, the biggest thing, like I said before, is that if you try to get all the information from them, you know, without gaining the credibility you need in the first appointment, they're not going to tell you. You know, we do remarket to these appointments, and, you know, some advisors are not as good as others, to be quite honest. And, you know, we get advisors that'll close out an appointment and they'll say, you know, they just want information, didn't have any money. And then someone else will talk to them and they really did have money. They just didn't feel comfortable enough with that advisor to tell them. And, you know, the next advisor that was with them, you know, was able to get them to open up and share with them they did have money. So it's all in the skill level you have. Obviously, we can't make people have money. That's not the case. But, you know, in our current world, you know, not many people don't have any money if they've been working, you know, for any amount of time prepared for retirement. So.
Okay. So next question I have, and I think this is part of the reason why we're going to do a deeper dive on this, but the next question is, so these prospects, oftentimes they're expecting that you're going to be able to give them some type of an income calculation on what their state retirement benefit is. And so is it just the number, or is there other stuff that the agent should be talking about in regard to the state retirement?
Well, I would say that they're expecting that you should be experts in their state retirement system. I wouldn't say that you need to necessarily give them income protection, because for some people it's super easy. Let's say that someone's worked at you know, they're 34 years old, they've worked there for 10 years. And, you know, if it's in the state of Florida or state of Texas or somewhere like that, you can say, well, you know, right now, if you retire, you're going to get basically, you know, 15, 20% of your income at retirement time. Could you live on that? Well, of course not. Well, great. That means you need to save more money. Just like, you know, no one says, well, gosh, I can't wait to retire on Social Security and live high on the hog. No one says that. You know, the same thing applies with the state retirement system. You should always, you know, save in addition. And so that's really what we're doing there, is you're setting them up for that. So depending on their age, and depending on how much interest level you get in them, you know, even if someone is, you know, in their early 30s like that, or 20s, and you're talking to them, you should still do possibly an income analysis, because then what you can do is the software is smart enough to where it'll calculate backwards, and it'll say, look, if you save $535 a month, you know, until retirement time, you can retire at full salary. How nice would that be? And so that's where that software really comes in great. But, you know, especially if you're working in the K through 12 market, colleges, and even cities and counties, a lot of those people are very visual learners. And so that's why scheduling that Zoom appointment and having the software down pat to where you can show them and illustrate them right on the fly is super, super important. It'll really improve your sales.
Okay. You had touched on this question, but it was, you know, should you always typically try and do this via Zoom? And I think your thought process is, after that first appointment, you should definitely be pushing to try and do that if they can.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I
Um,
said, if they're adverse to it, don't push it. But if you could do Zoom, it definitely helps you out. If nothing else, think about this. Let's say they say, yes, I want to buy that $500 a month life insurance policy from you. Then you can do the application right there on Zoom. And when it comes time for them to sign through Zoom, you can give over control to the other person, and they can sign right there in front of you. You don't have to worry about emailing the application back and forth or anything like that. So it just definitely makes it much cleaner.
yep. I'll answer this question. So there's a question on here. Is this program from the Scott Brooks & Co. lead system? No. Yeah, just they both happen to be named Scott. So this is a completely unique, different program. I have a question on here on, are we going to have any training on state benefits? And we are planning on doing upcoming training. I would tell you, and Scott, you can speak to this as well, but all the states have their different nuances. And so I think what we're planning on doing is some training on kind of best practices and some of that. Scott had mentioned track software as an example. So some of the resources that are available, as well as in your individual state, where should you go to look? Does that sound about right?
That's exactly correct. All that information is available online. Sometimes it's like reading Greek, I will admit that, but it is available. But like for example, sometimes people take out years of service because they quit or whatever, and they come back to that same employer. Buying back those years of service is very important. You having the knowledge of how the basics on how to do that, and to be able to show them where to go to do that, again, super important. That's really where you're really helping people out. That's where you're putting karma in the old karma bank if you can really help people out do stuff like that. So having knowledge on all that stuff is very important.
Okay. I've got a question here. Should they send any in between the first and the second appointment? Should anything get sent out to that prospect, like just a general brochure on the advisor's business or talking points or anything, or should they just leave it up to the follow-up process that you guys have?
I would recommend that you should do what your current sales process is. I mean, I know a lot of you obviously are in this business and you're successful. So I'm not asking you to change what you're doing, other than don't contact them before the first appointment. And just know that we're going to send them a reminder email and text message before the second appointment. But everything you're currently doing, I would continue to do it. If you're not sending an email or some kind of messaging in between the first and second appointment, I'm sure your marketer at IAMS can help you with some content on how to do that. But I would recommend you do that. Just don't do the things we said to do earlier.
Okay, very very good point. Next question. So cost of the appointment. So good question, actually. So with this program, there is no upfront cost for the advisor. So the way this is paid for is through a comp split on the back end. So I think the great thing about that for agents that are interested in this program is there's nothing that's paid unless you write business. And then I think the other point about it is too, and Scott, you'll you'll talk about it in this context as well, but I think it really makes sure that our interests are aligned. Sterling National, they're not selling leads, they're not selling appointments. The only way that they get paid is when that advisor writes business. So it really makes sure that their interests are aligned and have the same goals.
That's right. So this is my favorite part. So how we make money is if you guys make money, and if you guys don't make money, we don't make money. And so it's literally is that simple. And so it aligns our goals. It makes sure that we both have the same goal, which is for us to create good leads and for you guys to close them. And so I think that's very unique in a lead generation program. Most of them don't care. And that's why when you lose a case, so if you do a closed loss for us, we ask you what the details are. Most lead companies could care less why you lost it. We do care because we want to make sure that our marketing isn't getting off, or that there's something we shouldn't change. And so we have your best interest at heart. Now, at the same time, we also only want the very best. We do track your close ratios. We want to make sure you're doing everything that you should do. And we want to give you all the tools that you can to make sure that you're successful. But at the same time, if I create a bad lead and sell you a bad lead, I make money, you don't. The way we do it, if I create a bad lead and you don't close it, neither one of us makes money. But if I create a good lead and you close that good lead, then we both make money. So it, like I said, it aligns our goals and makes sure that we're all rooting for the same team here. And so that's what we're really interested in doing. Make sure there's no bad blood or animosity.
Yeah. So I know we're coming up on the hour. And we've got several actually more questions here. So I'm gonna answer a couple of more, and then if we don't get to your question, reach out. I've got our number up here. Talk to one of the sales directors over here. They can help you with that. So next question up is, do you need to be contracted with IAMS in order to participate in this? And the answer is yes. So we administer the comp splits on that. So you do need to be contracted with us to do that program or to do this program. And then the last question, since I know we're over on our hour, is so what would be the general expectation as far as number of appointments that an agent might get in a given week?
So we could do anywhere from 2 to 10 appointments a week. We ask the agents up front how many you'd like to have a week. We try to meet that if we can, but at the same time, we're trying to work into the leads schedule, not the other way around. We're not trying to, say, okay, well, Scott Bell has 11 o'clock every day available, and so we just go look for people who have 11 o'clock available. That's not how we do it. We do it the other way around. So we ask the lead what the best date and time for them to meet is, and then we make sure that that fits inside of your schedule. And the reason why we do that, honestly, is because one, we create more appointments that way, but two, it reduces the no-show rate by doing it that way. So, and then, around Christmas time, around, different holidays, the lead count is going to come down, obviously, but it just depends on the time of the year. But we can turn it on or turn it off, not easily, but we can do it. We do have control of that. And so, the lead count is going to be based on what you tell us. Now, the opposite side of that is that you, as the advisor, you've got to have your calendar available. I mean, God, I would love to be able to work from 11 till 2 o'clock every day, and except on Fridays. But I don't have that luxury. Maybe some of you do. But not all employees that want to talk to you can meet within those times. So having your calendar open and available is super important, so that we can get you appointments at the times that is convenient for the lead. Now, at the same time, if you're going on vacation, make sure and mark off your calendar so that we don't put any appointments on your calendar for those dates times. So it's a give and take there of making sure your calendar is up to date, and making sure that we can put the puzzle pieces together to fit the right times with the right agents.
And so you made a good point, or a couple of good points, which is one, making sure you're available when people want to meet, but then secondly, agents that are doing this program, they have the ability to go in there and make updates on the calendar when they're not available.
Right.
Okay. Very good. So as I mentioned, I can see here that we've got several more questions, but I know we're over on time. So what I would tell everybody is a couple of things. One, I appreciate everybody taking the time to be on the meeting today. Scott, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to be with us as well and answer these questions. We are going to be having some additional upcoming trainings in the future. We haven't set the date for the next one, but it'll probably be within the next couple of weeks. I would also encourage you that you can talk to any of the sales directors over here. So if you've got additional questions about this, if you're interested in doing this program or want to know how you can get registered to do it, reach out, talk to a sales director. Phone number is 800-255-5055. And I appreciate everybody taking the time with us today, and hope you have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Curtis.